Welcome everyone back to weekly weather updates, and in today's video we're going to have the latest from the live radar, run for the latest UKV, have a look at the precipitation and the temperature over the next 5 days as the very unsettled conditions are now upon us. We've got this big weather front out in the west, and through this evening it will be spreading in for all, giving a good dumping of rain across all parts of the British Isles. Now, as we head into the weekend, we aren't going to see rain all the time, but there is going to be multiple bands of precipitation and frequent heavy and even thundery showers at times. You are going to be lucky if you get a good few hours of some sunny weather. It will be around, just most are going to have quite a lot of rain. Into next week, this pattern does continue as we head towards the final days of May. We are going to continue to see heavy bands of rain and frequent showers wherever we, in between those bands. And temperatures are going to be very variable as well, up and down. Some days 20 degrees possible in the sun, other days low teens where we have the thicker cloud and the rain. However, as we have seen over the past few videos, into the last couple of days of May, so late next week, into the start of June, we are seeing a strong chance now that we do turn warmer, pushing in some hot and humid air from the south. However, the big thing that we've been trying to sort of decipher within the models is, are we going to see enough high pressure around to keep it settled? Now, the majority of runs, as you've probably seen over the past few days, have not kept things settled. They've kept instability around, kept a lot of cape, so energy for showers and storms. And yeah, pretty explosive end to May and start to June is continuing to look very likely. Now, unfortunately, we haven't got short range runs to have a look at it yet. That is going to be something we look at through the weekend and start of next week. But for the time being, we'll continue to be able to have a look at the overall synoptic pattern. And yeah, it does look like we are going to be in for a really thundery but potentially quite warm start to summer. So do remember, if you enjoy my videos, make sure you like and subscribe. Now, if you start on the live radio, you can see that big weather front out in the west at the moment, bringing heavy rain for all as it progresses eastwards. Behind that weather front, it's much fresher air coming in off the Atlantic, and we'll start to see those showers piling in as we head into the weekend. Now, further eastwards, it's been another pleasant day. Quite a lot of sunshine, still feeling quite warm, but you may have noticed through the afternoon and now into the early evening, thicker clouds building, a bit of a stiffening breeze, and that is all because low pressure is slowly nudging its way in. Now, at the moment, the southern edge of this weather front doesn't actually have a lot of precipitation on it. It's not particularly beefy, and you might think, well, it means a lot of England and Wales might get spared the heavy rain. Now, the majority of runs do beef this area up a little bit, especially into the early hours of Saturday. Potentially some really quite heavy stuff moves through the London area, East Anglia and South East England. So although it doesn't look too ominous at the moment, this is going to fill out and we are going to see heavy rain for all up and down the country. Heaviest stuff right now moving into western Scotland, into parts of North Wales and northwest England. And yeah, it is going to be spreading in for all over the coming hours. Now, temperatures are still fairly warm ahead of that weather front. Behind it, warming up a little bit as well, but it is noticeably cooler, not as many oranges there, so temperatures more into the teens. Across England and Wales, still got into the low 20s today. And that will still be a possibility throughout this week. Yes, cooler air masses are moving in, but they're nothing remarkably cold. We are still going to get around average temperatures at the surface, which is definitely a positive. Now, to have a look at the latest UKV now, you can see all of that rain heading in at the moment. Initially, as we see on the southern tip of this weather front, not too much in the way of precipitation, but you can see overnight it does beef up, and we see into Saturday morning some really heavy stuff moving through. So at the moment, it's not particularly filled out to the south yet, but you can see progressively through the Friday evening into Saturday, it turns into a much bigger system, clearing away into Saturday morning, just leaving a legacy of thick cloud and on and off showers. Into Saturday afternoon and evening, look at this, a spell of very heavy, thundery showers moving in from the west around the centre of the low. And yeah, it could be a really blustery and maybe thundery evening there for Scotland and Northern England. Some really heavy torrential rain moving in. Again, fortunately, the majority of this heavy rain falling overnight. But it could be woken up to some really heavy precipitation at times. Into Sunday morning, those thunderstorms and showers continue across Scotland, but further south as they clear away. And Sunday is going to be a day of sunshine and showers. Showers predominantly in the north and west closest to the lower pressure. In the south, it's actually quite sunny and dry for a period of time, but doesn't last too long. And into Monday, we see another spell of thick cloud and some heavier rain moving in once again. Again, could be pretty heavy, blustery and thundery along that as a small scale low pressure system develops. So it could be very lively wherever that does track through. And then into Tuesday, another area of rain moving in, looking a lot lighter and focused further southwards here. So you see, for all, we're going to see lots of bands of heavy rain, lots of heavy, blustery, thundery showers as well. Each day, the heaviest and most disrupted rainfall is going to be focused in different spots, but we're all going to get our fair share of heavy rain, and hopefully we should see our fair share of breaks in that rain. Hopefully we see some good sunshine at times, but yeah, looking nowhere near as consistent as it has been recently. Now, if you look at those max temperatures, you can see during today up towards the low 20s, where we've seen those best spots across parts of England and Wales. And as we head into Saturday, could still nudge towards 20 to 22, but most towards the mid to low teens, much cooler with that westerly flow. Into Sunday, it's a similar story. The far southeast could just hold on to the warmth, still 21. Further westwards, 13 or 14 degrees. Into Monday, once again, could just about see a 17 to 19 in the far east. Most other spots, though, mid to low teens. And the same could be said for Tuesday and even as we head into Wednesday. So not cold this week. There will be cooler spells, especially under the heavy rain. It's going to feel cold. But for most, the air is going to still hover around average in terms of temperature. We are going to see potentially a few 20 degrees here or there, but definitely not the warm and dry conditions we've seen over the past few weeks. Definitely returning us back towards something that is more average to below average. As I said, though, warmth and some heat could be on the horizon. Now, we have got this westerly flow over the coming days, but look what happens late next week. We see this ridge of high pressure coming up from the south, and it pushes in some really warm, humid air. But we still have the westerly flow, we still have unsettled conditions, instability getting thrown our way, and the combination here would produce some quite heavy, thundery showers. You can see the difference between air masses around 14 degrees across northern France, 2 or 3 out in the Atlantic. And that temperature contrast over the UK is going to cause quite a few showers. You can see here spells of heavy rain and thunderstorms sweeping through here from the latest GFS. If we look at the Cape, you can see quite a lot of Cape there during next Saturday. If we look at next Friday, not so much, but next Saturday, and then across parts of France and Netherlands, Belgium, there are some really high levels. So we are still 7 or 8 days away. So the movement, positioning of showers, storms and Cape here will be adjusted nearer the time, but you can see why we could be looking at a very explosive end of May and start to June. Lots of energy around there, especially through next Saturday, Sunday, Monday. Eventually the warmth gets pushed away and we go back into more of a westerly flow, but still battle between east and west, and again trying to funnel some very warm air northwards here, and I think we would end up in a very similar position to what we saw earlier on that week, with again lots of high levels of Cape, and yeah, it could be really unsettled there. Again, if we put on the precipitation associated here, lots of heavy showers and thunderstorms. So another similar run from the GFS as we've seen over the past few days, of lots of heavy thundery showers there to end May and start June. Now, if you compare to the GM, it's been fairly on board with the same sort of themes. Again, that westerly flow over the next few days. Late next week, again, we see that tilt in the isobars to more of a southerly or southwesterly. Again, very warm air nudging our way, combining with that low. And my gosh, could be said very explosive once again. Look at all of that Cape. Much higher levels here from the GM all across the country. And yeah, could be really unsettled And again, look at the precipitation, all of these heavy showers and storms moving through. You can see it by the scattered nature here, really high intensity, and then nothing in the space of a very short distance. Again, these are low resolution runs, or relatively low resolution, and that's why, you can't pinpoint too many details, but you could just see the overall theme here set for a very explosive end of May and start to June. And if we finish by looking at the latest ECMWF, broadly very, very similar. Again, we see that southerly wind or southwesterly wind arriving late May, early June. Very similar, potentially a bit more high pressure here, especially out towards the end of the run. We won't look at the specifics here because we keep getting those ads popping up, which are finding pretty frustrating. So we won't look at the specifics here, as that will get those to trigger. But we can see, regardless, it is a very similar run with that European high building. And if we just have a look at those upper air temperatures at the end of this run, very warm potentially. And this sort of run would be warm and dry by the end of it, but it would have that thundery transition at least during the middle part of the run here, towards that end of May, early June. That's the focus point for those thunderstorms. A good sort of 3 or 4 day patch there where we could see pretty perfect brewing grounds for thunderstorms. So that's what we need to keep an eye on. But tentative signs here from the eastern Europe beyond that for potentially settling down that high pressure, building in with that warm air mass. You can see here 10-degree isotherm pushing in. That's the sort of upper air temperatures that would deliver mid to high 20s, maybe even an isolated 30 degrees. So that would be pretty pleasant indeed. Now, if we finish by looking at the latest ensembles, latest GFS just coming out at the moment, you can see up and down with the upper air temperatures over the next week or so. But it's late next week where we see persistent upper air temperatures getting towards that 10-degree range, which is warm, humid, nothing insane. This time of year, we'd be looking at sort of 15-degree isotherm for anything, it's very hot, getting towards that 30-degree range or low 30s. But regardless, 10 degrees at Angel THP is still warm, humid, and are going to put fuel on the fire there for those storms. So that's what we're seeing here, late May, early June. Precipitation spikes appearing as well, so high risk of storms. But again, ensembles here not going to pick up at it too well because it is completely convection based. If you check out the latest ECMWF, just to compare as well, we see the midnight run again up and down, warmer there into late May, early June. Not quite as above average or persistently above average as the GFS, a bit more wobbling there from some of the ensemble members, but regardless, a very similar pattern. And yeah, could be in, as I said, for a real interesting end to May and start to June. Hopefully in the next couple of days we'll have a bit more details on those thunderstorms as we do get nearer to the event. But for the time being, we're just going to have to keep our very close eye on that and of course get through the very unsettled conditions over the coming days. Again, could even be some thunderstorms through Sunday, Monday from the looks of that latest UKV. So do stay safe out there. Of course, it is going to be a much more unsettled pattern over the next couple of weeks. Complete contrast to what we've seen through much of spring. But it was always going to change, and the change is now upon us. So thanks for watching. Hope you enjoyed. Subscribe if you're new, and I'll see you again for another video soon.